So let's wait for people to arrive in the room. There we go. So people are just starting to arrive now. Welcome everyone. Thanks for coming along. I'm Fraser May. I'm the Communications Advisor for Civil Contractors New Zealand, the National Association for the Civil Construction Industry in New Zealand. And with me, I've got Stacy Goldsworthy, who's the CCNZ Technical Manager. So today we're going to just do a really quick fire session on COVID-19 Alert Level 2 protocols and the changes, how it's different from Level 3. We're going to try and keep it pretty quick fire, short and sweet, and focus mainly on the changes between Alert Level 3 and Alert Level 2, just so that we can clue you in on those. We know you're busy people, so we won't take up too much of your time this morning. So yeah, just while we're waiting for people to arrive, on the right-hand side of your webinar window there, you'll see a chat button. So if you want to ask us questions about Alert Level 2 or Alert Level 3, you're welcome to click that chat button and just ask away. So we're just about ready to get going now, I think. We won't hold on too long. So first off, yeah, welcome. If you've got any other questions, do feel free to email Stacy directly if you've got anything that's a bit too detailed to put into the chat box on the right-hand side. Great. So take it away, Stacy.
All right, guys, thanks very much for attending this morning. Yeah, as you know, tomorrow morning we'll be, or most of the country will be going into Level 2. So the team that's been developing the protocols for Level 2 is pretty much remain the same, but same core bunch of guys. Probably getting from time to time some operational input to make sure that what we're developing is, well, not 100% workable. You know, the distancing still remains a bit of an issue, especially more so in the vertical. I think the horizontal we've got a bit more space to work. So yeah, that team still meets regularly and discusses how these protocols work. So from a standard point of view, so the standard sits above the protocols. CCNZ's developed that, and that is something that has not been updated as we've gone down through the levels. It's quite a general kind of methodology of, and then the protocols come from that. So yeah, so CCNZ still remains our main conduit into government. Questions that come up through the working group and then come from our membership, we push up through them, and they try their best to work with the government departments to make sure that we get answering. They are working with government departments, and at times, sometimes it's difficult to get the right answers or to get answers, but they work hard in that space. Also, we've still got Site Safe, Andrew, Adam, Brett over there, still providing the horsepower behind a lot of the development of the protocols. So we end up doing some late nights to pull a lot of the stuff together. So to get into the Level 2 protocols, so they've been up on the CCNZ's website. You know, that's been our messaging right the way through this process, is that CCNZ will host the protocols for the vertical and horizontal, which we've been working together, but also for the residential. So the residential guys still want to go and develop their own protocols as we go down through the levels, and that's all hosted on that CCNZ's website. So to make the document a little bit more manageable, the FAQs, frequently asked questions, they've been removed and are now a separate document. Also, a lot of the posters that were and other information, just general information that could be put up, that's been removed from the document, but it's still available on that CCNZ website as a separate document. I suppose the key thing I want to go through today, we won't probably go through the Level 2 protocols line by line. That would be quite problematic, quite boring. So Site Safe have developed a Toolbox talk which highlights the main issues or the main changes. So we'll just work through that document. It's a one-pager. We've discussed it with NZTA, and they, as a reinduction onto their sites, that's all they wish to see, is that the Toolbox talk that we're about to go through has been communicated to all workers and people coming onto site. So the three key areas from government, they have been pretty consistent over level 3 and now with level 2. So that's contact tracing. At the last webinar we discussed making sure that you are contact tracing, you have a system in place, and probably the key thing was that system is being audited. So if there is a COVID infection on your site with one of your workers, that you can pull that information in quick time, because no doubt the Ministry of Health will be coming through your site like a dose of salts to get that information and to quarantine or isolate people that have been in contact with anybody that does have has the virus. Good hygiene, hand washing, that's still fundamental. There has been some guidance been issued by the Ministry of Health around face masks. They've done a research from around the world, looked at all the different reports that have been generated from different jurisdictions. They put it into one document, and the outcome was, nothing's really conclusive around the face mask. So it's still out there as whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. And the last one is distancing. So we'll talk about distancing as part of the Toolbox talk. So can we fire up the Toolbox talk?
Yep, absolutely, ready to go. So just before we get into that, so the key differences between level 3 protocols and level 2 protocols. Stacy, you're saying basically not that much has changed between the two levels, is that right? Or
no, the distancing is starting to be relaxed. Prior it was 2 meters. Then if you had controls in place, you could go down to 1 meter. But now it's 2 meters for people we don't know, for strangers, and 1 meter for others, and less than 1 meter in the workplace if you have controls in place. Right,
and the Toolbox talk that we're just about to share, we will share that by automated email after this webinar, so everyone's got that. It should be uploaded to the CCNZ website in the very near future as well. So without further ado, I'll jump over to share my screen with you, which will have the Toolbox talk for level 2 on it. So I'll just go live with that now.
I suppose just a disclaimer before we start running through this document. It was produced and distributed to the working group last night, so there may be some changes. So we'll just need to confirm where that sits this morning before we send out the link, or when we direct people to the CCNZ website. So but they do highlight the differences between level 3 and level 2.
Sorry, everyone, I just had that at a different size than I should have. I'll just redo it. There we go.
So as I mentioned, around physical distancing, 1 meter for people in the workplace. If you're less than 1 meter, you've got to have mitigating measures or controls in place. So these can be physical barriers, short duration of works. And there was discussion on the level 3 as part of the legislation, or the order, which to the Health Act, which became the legislation around 15 minutes. So we've asked for clarification of the government on that. We haven't received anything yet. So we haven't seen level 2 legislation at this stage. I know that there is the National and Act have been not halting it, but want some changes to it. There's some quite wide bars that apparently that are included in that, so they're questioning them. But there will need to be something available by by midnight tonight, so that there is some legislation around what level 2 looks like. Additional PPE for distancing, that's been pretty consistent all the way through. Just an increased hygiene and cleanliness. So 2 meters is required for public, or those people that you do not know. Around the, we'll go down a bit there, Fraser. So the travel protocol, so again, it's a limited number of people and vehicles, and trying to keep 1 metre separation. So if it still requires multiple vehicles, then that's what you will need to do, unless you can do the 1 metre separation. Yeah, Fraser, you just want to drop down on that toolbox talk, please?
Oh, okay, right. Sorry, I didn't realise it wasn't scrolling with me. Okay, yeah.
Yep, that's cool. Additional access and site delivery. So requiring a sign in and sign out, making sure that you are contact tracing all deliveries to site. And again, having an audit of that system, making sure that people are doing that, and being able to pull that information together in good time would be highly beneficial, especially if you do have a case on site. Hand washing on access and exit, and also physical distancing. So we have the personal health flowchart. So under level 3, there was a couple of boxes in there that dealt with proximity to cases, and also talked around people coming in from overseas if you've done international travel. I suppose with international travel no longer being a activity that people do, and the quarantine that's required for people coming back into the country, that clause pretty much came redundant. So there was 3 boxes on the left hand side that dealt with that type of activity. They've all been removed, and it's just simplified now. So if you've had come in contact with somebody with flu-like symptoms, or in contact with a person with COVID-19. And again, it's reinforcing with anybody coming to site, whether it be workers, engineers, reps, site delivery guys, if they have flu-like symptoms or have a cold, then they are not to come to work. So as part of level 2, this was something that WorkSafe wanted to include, and CCNZ had been working in, is adding mental health and wellbeing into the protocols. With people being off work and now coming into on sites, they may be a bit nervous, and they may have some mental reservations about doing that. So they've been included. So CCNZ has been running mates in construction now for a while, and seemed logical that we bring that program into the protocols. So at the back end of the protocols, there is some mental health protocols. It would be wise to run them past your workforce, make sure that they are aware of what they do contain. Inter-regional travel. So now that we have, we're going to level 2, regional travel is allowed. So having people and getting people around the country is no longer the issue that it was prior. We still haven't seen some that led I see a few issues here. Yep, back. So we still haven't seen the level 2 legislation. So, but from the government messaging we've seen so far, we will hope that regional travel will be allowed. There's been discussions around gatherings. There's been especially in the last last night and this morning around gatherings around funerals and the like. So the gatherings, and as it applies to workplaces, we've taken the stance that there is the distinct and the separate. We for the PCBU sort of in control and management of that site, to control the entry, the exit, to apply distancing requirements on site, and to manage that. We still recommend staggered starts to make sure that you've got a split workforce. If you have a COVID outbreak, having staggered starts or having split shifts. If one group or one shift does, we could have an outbreak, you can stand them down and can still keep going with the other half of your crew. And also, it's probably more for the vertical guys, but if you need multiple points of entry to site, if it's a confined site.
Yeah. So just to clarify that one, Stacy. So what you're saying is that the limit of 10 to public gatherings doesn't apply to the workplace because it's managed directly through the site-specific health and safety plan. Is that right?
Yeah. It's for that, for the PCBU and management control to manage that. Yeah, not the gatherings as they are and the detailed level 2 that the government's produced. We don't see them applying to the workplace.
Okay. Yeah. Just going to try re-sharing that document so everyone can see the whole thing. Sorry.
So we did ask around a recovered person from the ministry. We're still yet to receive or CCNZ yet to receive a response on what a definition of a recovered person was. The only definition that we have found was somebody that hadn't showed symptoms for 10 days. 10 days? It was 10 days. So we haven't had the official on that. So what we are recommending, if somebody has had COVID-19, that they do provide a negative test and that they have a doctor's clearance. And also anybody that's showing flu-like symptoms, they should bring the helpline and also should have a doctor's clearance to come. So as I mentioned, alert level 2 legislation, we haven't seen that yet. National and Act are questioning what the government has put through. I think it's going for its 3rd reading today. And then once we have access to that, probably later on, well, definitely before, well, you expect it before midnight, then we may need to review what we have and may need to make some changes. So if those changes, if there are any changes required based on that, we will need to we'll push out a notification, and that'll firstly be on the CCNZ website, and everybody that's registered for these webinars as we've gone through, we will we'll send you out an email.
Okay, great. So do you think that about covers it? Time for questions? What do you think?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna turn the screen share off. We've if you see everyone that's here, there's a files button that you can click, and we're attempting to share the toolbox directly with you for download. So if you click the files button on the right hand side, you should be able to hopefully download that. And any questions, just use the chat function on the right hand side there. Feel free to fire away. We do have one in there already from Seth. Stacy, so if you can answer that one, it's around if teams have been working exclusively together in their own bubbles for 16 days and no one has symptoms, do they need to wear masks? The Director General of Health is recommending face masks are not required as there are no evidence they're effective outside of the health system. Any stance on that?
Yeah, well, if they are working within a bubble, or they're working in their own bubble, I suppose it's how they then integrate back into their own family bubbles. I think that's probably more the question. The mask thing has been, the Ministry of Health and the report that they've posted on their website say that it's inconclusive whether they're effective or not. So yeah, there's probably other controls that you need to be reviewing as opposed to masks.
Okay, and we've got another question here around personal health. So the requirement to stay at home if you have flu symptoms. So it's really around HR terms around sort of sick leave. Will this day be taken as sick leave, or is the employer expected to pay for people self-isolating, I guess?
That's an interesting one. You would expect if a person has sick leave that would be covered in their employment agreement or through a union agreement that it is sick leave. But I suppose if they don't have any, then that's probably a discussion between the employee and the employer. Yeah, but a good faith discussion there.
Yeah, there was a leave payment set up through MSD, wasn't there? Just, I'm wondering if that's still current.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that's a good question. We'll clarify that if that's still current following the webinar if people are self-isolating. Yeah, so I guess, go on, sorry, Stacy.
around the wage subsidy as well. How that works around leave, I'm not too sure. So we'll get some advice on that.
Yeah, they're combined. And no, that's an interesting one. So we've got the Toolbox document there. Feel free to fire us through any other questions. I'll just put the slides back up now so that you get Stacy's email address there. And if you've got any questions, feel free to fire them through. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And we'll get back to the people that have attended this webinar with a quick recap, and also with the toolbox, which covers off the differences between Alert Level 3 and Alert Level 2. Any updates that come from the legislation, we'll keep you all updated as well. Any other questions, let us know, but otherwise it looks like that might well be a wrap. Anything to cover off at the end, Stacy?
No.
Oh, one more. Courier packages. Are people still required to trace the courier's name and number?
Yeah, it would be ideal that be the case.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, thank you very much, Stacy. Thanks everyone for attending. I'll leave this this webinar panel open for a few minutes. So if you do have any questions, do feel free to use the chat function on the right-hand side to ask them. And we'll do our utmost to get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you, guys.